my calm in the chaos, my peace in the war. You speak light into darkness, you tell me I'm yours. Only you, Jesus, are in control. You are my every heartbeat, every breath that I breathe. You're all I need, you're all I need. You speak life, sing your love over me. You're all I need, you're all I need. Caught up in your captivating, never failing love. You are my every heartbeat, every breath that I breathe. You're all I need, you're all I need. The love of a father, the strength of a king, the blood of a savior. You're my everything. You are my every heartbeat, every breath that I breathe. You're all I need, you're all I need. You speak life, sing your love over me. You're all I need, you're all I need. Caught up in your captivating, never failing love. You are my every heartbeat, every breath that I breathe. You're all I need, you're all I need. Only you, Jesus, are in control. Take my brokenness and make me whole. Only you, Jesus, are in control. Take my brokenness and make me whole. You are my every heartbeat, every breath that I breathe. You're all I need, you're all I need. You speak life, sing your love over me. You're all I need, you're all I need. Caught up in your captivating, never failing love. You are my every heartbeat, every breath that I breathe. You're all I need, you're all I need.
Order up, my friends. It's me, Graham. And today, I'm serving up a delicious dish that's gonna make you jealous. Safety first. Double chocolate chip cookies. Taste test time. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna eat these now, they're way too hot. I'm gonna have to wait to enjoy this chewy, gooey deliciousness. Which means I'll need patience. Patience is waiting until later for what you want now. It'll be a challenge to wait, but I will do it. Do you smell that? Well, no. You wouldn't. So, let me try and describe the smell for you. Imagine you're walking along a beach made entirely of chocolate. The chocolate ocean is waving nearby. And as you breathe in, the air is a warm chocolate breeze. That's what it feels like to be in the presence of these cookies. Maybe just one bite. No! No cookies! Oh, I've got to think about something else. Light, vegetable oil, mannequin, crock pot, cookies. No! Ah! Time to put these away. There. Now it will be easy to wait. I can still smell them. In today's story, we'll hear about a group of people who are finding it very hard to wait. And they knew better. I'll be here when you get back.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story inspired by the book of Exodus, chapter 32, verses 1 through 35.
For hundreds of years, God's people lived as slaves in Egypt. They cried out to God, and God rescued them. He led them through the midst of the Red Sea to freedom in the wilderness. And that's where He showed His love and care by providing bread from heaven and water from solid rock. 3 months later, God led His people to Mount Sinai, where they camped at the foot of the mountain in the desert. Moses was called to by God from the mountain.
Say to my people, the Israelites, you have seen for yourselves what I did to Egypt. You saw how I carried you on the wings of eagles and brought you to myself. Now obey me completely. If you do, then out of all the nations, you will be my special treasure.
Moses shared God's word with the people.
We will do everything the Lord has said.
God called Moses to meet with Him on the mountaintop. Moses spoke to the elders of the Israelites before he left.
Wait here until I come back. My brother Aaron and Hur will stay with you. Anyone who has a problem can go to them.
Don't sweat it. We got this.
No one can come up. The mountain is holy.
Noted.
I'll see you soon-ish.
Have fun storming the mountain.
As Moses and his assistant Joshua began to climb the steep slopes, the glory of God settled on Mount Sinai like thick cloud and burning fire.
I will give you stone tablets. They contain the law and commandments I have written to teach the people.
Moses stayed within the cloud on top of Mount Sinai, talking with God for 40 days and nights. Meanwhile, back at the camp, the Israelites were growing restless.
I'm so, over this desert camping thing.
That Moses seems kind of unreliable to me.
Yeah, what if he's making up all the God stuff? You know, besides the cloud and the Red Sea and food from heaven and all that.
He's certainly taking long enough. Hey, Aaron, where's your brother?
Aaron shrugged and pointed to the cloud that hovered over the mountain.
You know as much as I do.
We need someone to really take charge.
A God we can see, a God who will lead us.
Keep talking, bro.
Moses may have brought us out of Egypt, but he's just disappeared. Poof. What are you gonna do, Aaron?
Aaron was tired of the people's complaining, so he buckled under pressure.
Give me all your gold jewelry.
Aaron took all the gold the people brought him and melted it down. Then he shaped it into the form of a golden calf.
Israel, here is your God who brought you out of Egypt.
It's so shiny.
Well, when Aaron saw how excited the people were, he built an altar in front of the calf.
Tomorrow will be a feast day.
So all the next day, the Israelites brought sacrifices to honor a golden calf made out of their own jewelry. The people ate, drank, and danced wildly in front of the statue.
Who wants to walk like an Egyptian? Huh?
Not me. We just got out of there. Thanks to this amazing calf.
Back on the mountain, in the midst of the cloud, God spoke to Moses.
Go down. Your people you brought up out of Egypt have become very sinful. They have turned away from what I commanded.
Heartbroken, Moses and Joshua made their way back down the mountain. Moses carried 2 heavy stone tablets covered with the laws God had given. The 2 men stopped in their tracks.
Wait, is that the sound of war? It's not the sound of winning or losing. That's singing.
Moses and Joshua picked up their pace, scrambling down the mountainside. As they approached the camp, Moses saw the golden calf, dazzling in the sunlight. The Israelites danced wildly around it.
Inconceivable!
Moses was so angry, he took the stone tablets and hurled them to the ground.
Stop! Stop this at once!
The music and dancing stopped. Moses marched right through the crowd, right up to the golden calf. Aaron tried to sheepishly duck away, but Moses spotted him at once.
What did these people do to you? How did they make you lead them into such terrible sin?
Okay, don't be angry. You know how these people are. They said, make us a god to lead us. And then they gave me their gold jewelry. And I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf.
Aaron couldn't look his brother in the eye. They both knew the true story.
Why didn't you wait for me? The people are running wild. We've become a joke to our enemies.
Moses toppled the golden calf into the fire to burn. Then he ground the golden calf into a fine powder and scattered it on the water.
Drink it, all of you.
This is hard to drink.
Oh, my stomach feels downright awful.
God helped his people over and over, but when they had to wait, they forgot his goodness. They chose their own way, and the consequences weren't so golden.
I have a confession to make. I didn't eat the cookies! I had patience! I have another confession to make. Sometimes I don't have patience. No, sometimes I'm more like the Israelites in the story. I trick myself into thinking I can't wait for what I want. Have you ever done that? Have you ever eaten a snack when you weren't supposed to because you couldn't wait until dinner? Have you ever found the secret hiding place for presents because you couldn't wait until your birthday to find out what you got? A lot of us have done those things even though we know better. Maybe instead of tricking ourselves into thinking we can't wait, we can remember what's true. Instead of eating that snack you're not supposed to, remember it spoils your appetite at dinner time. Instead of sneaking around and looking for presents, remember how happy it makes others when they surprise you. And if you're waiting for something big, some pain to go away or sadness to end, remember what God has done in the past. Remember his miracles. Remember his son, Jesus, who died on a cross for us and who came back to life in 3 days. Ask God to help you control what you think. Here is the one thing to remember today. When you have to wait, remember what's true. It sounds easy to control what you think, but really it takes practice. Start now and who knows? Someday you may find yourself on a chocolate beach, near a chocolate ocean, feeling a warm chocolate breeze. Ew. Chocolate seagull. Well, I don't think I'm hungry anymore.
I want to be rich. I want to be cool.
I want to be pretty.
I want to be successful.
I want to be cool. I want to be powerful.
I want to be rich.
I want to be popular. I want to be clever.
I want to be successful.
I want to be pure.
I want to be heartbroken.
I want to be merciful.
I want to be humble.
I want to be hungry.
I want to be gentle. I want to be a peacemaker.
I want to be persecuted.
Just be.
My freshman year of high school, a friend of mine had to write a report about World War II for world history class. We had a little bit of creative freedom, so she decided to write about the aftermath of Pearl Harbor and interviewed her grandparents who had all been alive that day. She and I wanted to learn what it was like for her Japanese American grandparents during that time. As you may have learned in school, on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese Navy attacked the US naval base at Pearl Harbor in Oahu, Hawaii, which caused the US to declare war on Japan and join the Second World War. Out of fear of espionage, the US government rounded up Japanese Americans and forced them to what we call internment camps. Between 1942 and 1945, around 120,000 Japanese Americans who called the United States home were held at these camps. But this isn't just something that I know about from history books. My friend shared about how this personally impacted her grandparents who were sent to internment camps. So it's personal to me because she's my friend, and one of her grandparents went to those camps and lost everything. Her grandma was detained in one of those camps, and instead of being able to start college, she never got the opportunity to go after the war, which affected her for the rest of her life. And her dad's parents? They met in the internment camps and got married, and they were released, which sounds like a happy ending, right? Except they lost everything before the war, including their property and their businesses. Though they made the best of it, the hurt and injustice and trauma that they experienced continued to shape them for the rest of their lives. Oftentimes, people do not know that Japanese Americans were held in internment camps and experienced injustice. I can relate to my friend's story and her family history because injustice has been a part of my story and my family's story. So here's the thing. We've been talking about injustice the past couple of weeks, which we've defined as things in our world that are not right, they're unfair, or they're unequal. It's painful to experience injustice, and it makes us all ask the question, why doesn't somebody do something? It's even worse when injustice is ongoing, systemic, and constant. We started this series talking about how God sees and cares about what's happening. God is anti-injustice, and a part of following Jesus means that we care about the things that He cares about, and that is enough for us to do something. So maybe you hear that and you think, oh, that's great, but what about me? If you've been the victim of injustices like racism, oppression, discrimination, or prejudice, then you know what that feels like. And if you haven't, you may have heard stories about real people and their experiences. So if you felt that way, you may be showing up each day wondering, how do I handle injustice when it's happening to me and not just around me? Or maybe others of you are thinking, that's not me, that's not my story. I get that, but I want to challenge you to shift your perspective too. As a family, when one of us suffers, we all suffer. So this is a good opportunity for you to hear how your family has experienced what injustice feels like. And it's really important for you to lean in and practice what we talked about in our first week. Be curious. So, if you are experiencing injustice right now, or you've experienced injustice, what do you do? What do you do when you feel like you're all alone in that? With that in mind, I want to tell you a true story about 3 guys and what happened to them. There was a Babylonian king named Nebuchadnezzar who was very powerful, and he conquered and captured Israel. And one day, he built a giant golden statue that stood 90 feet tall and ordered everyone to bow down and worship the statue whenever they heard certain music playing. If they chose not to do as he ordered, then they would be thrown into a blazing fire. The Bible tells us that there were 3 Jewish men named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were worshipers of God and refused to bow down to the statue. You could probably guess that the king wasn't thrilled by the news, and so he ordered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be brought to him. He gave them one more chance to bow down and worship the statue when the music was played, or they would be thrown into the fire. But these 3 men stood their ground. They believed that God could rescue them. And even if He didn't, they were devoted to God and did not fear death. What an incredible example of courage and faith. So of course, the king is enraged and orders the fire to burn 7 times hotter than usual. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are tied up and thrown into the fire. The furnace was so hot that the soldiers who threw them into the fire died simply because they came near the flames. Now look, I get none of us have been thrown into literal fires recently, but I think we can agree that this feels unfair. And many of us do know what it feels like to be treated unfairly, to be discriminated against for our skin color, to be treated like we're less than because of our family's socioeconomic status, to be held back because of our gender, or considered less important because of something we have absolutely no control over. And if you've experienced this, you know it can be scary and frustrating and sad. And so while in the furnace, I'm sure they felt all of those things. Now, let's continue with the story. I want you to see what happens next after they were in the fire. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, Your Majesty." He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." And Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps and prefects and governors and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Now, there are many Bible scholars and researchers who have opinions about this story and who the 4th man was in the fire. Was it God? Was it Jesus? Was it an angel? Or was it someone else? I don't know the answer, but one thing is clear. In a moment of extreme injustice, they were not alone. God did not abandon them or leave them to suffer on their own. In the same way, you are never alone when you face injustice. Let that sink in. When you experience injustice, you do not have to face it alone. God cared about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and made sure that they were not alone in their suffering or their injustice. Did things change eventually? Yes. Did the laws change as a result of the injustice? Yes. But don't miss what happened even while they were suffering. God cared for them. And in the same way, God cares about you and does not want you to be alone when you face injustice. Maybe you hear this story and you feel the injustice part. Maybe you are so tired, so hurt, so burned by things that you've experienced that you don't know where to turn. I want you to know that you don't have to be alone. God is with you. He hears you. And if you are processing that for the first time, or you just don't know what to do next, here are some steps for you to consider. Talk to Jesus. He cares, maybe even more than you realize. Share your feelings of frustration, confusion, or hurt. Remind yourself over and over that you are not alone. And remember, He will send others to be with you. Talk to your group leader, or talk to a trusted friend or adult. Even if you think they won't understand, keep talking until someone does. Consider talking to your family about getting help from a professional counselor or a mentor who can help you process the injustice you've experienced in a healthy way and begin to heal. Keep moving. The guys in the fire did not give up. Let's be honest, you shouldn't have to do anything about the injustice that's affecting you. Others should step up. Generations older than you should have figured this out by now. It's unfair. All of that is true. But at the same time, doing nothing isn't always helpful. So you keep moving. Some of you, however, may have heard that story and thought, I haven't really experienced injustice. Does that mean I'm like the evil king who caused the injustice? Maybe, or maybe not. Or perhaps it makes you like the people in the crowd who stood and watched while all this was happening. We all participate in injustice in some way, often by allowing it to happen while we watch. Maybe you didn't throw somebody in a fire, or maybe you laugh along when you hear a racist joke, watch people get bullied, and you don't say anything, or listen to music that's degrading to women, or shop from stores that use child laborers to create their products. If that's you, I want you to know that you can talk to God about that too. In Psalm 139, the writer opens up and asks God the most beautiful question. See if there is any offensive way in me. Start there. Ask God to help you see ways that you've participated in injustice. This is so important because the truth is, some of the people you care about the most, your friends from school or from small group, have been on the receiving end of injustice. And maybe, for the first time, you see it differently and you care differently because of how it affects them. Let it become personal to you. When injustice happens, it is painful, but you don't have to do something alone. Not only is God with you, but so are the people in your small group. That's why we have small groups. We want you to have a group of people who are for you. We want you to have a group of people who are listening to you, praying with you, and learning from you, and cheering for you. In your small groups, the conversation you have today has the potential to be one of the most honest, personal, and important discussions you've ever had. If you've experienced injustice, think about how you can let the group know that you need support. If you haven't experienced injustice, think about how you can listen and genuinely care for someone in your group. This may sound like a lot right now. I get it. Even if you don't talk to your whole group tonight, I hope you'll talk to your leader. They signed up to do this because they want to be here for you. And maybe today they can be a real human reminder that when you experience injustice, you don't have to face it alone.